Like and subscribe right now, or you're gonna have terrible luck for the next week. Over thousands of years, stories of fantastic and mythological creatures have been passed down from generation to generation. We enjoy the tall tales describing these creatures, but rarely do we ever stop and think of their actual existence. Hello, dear viewer, and welcome to yet another interesting episode of 100M, where we'll look at the 10 mythical creatures that may have existed in the wild. Number 10. Yeti. In popular culture, the Yeti is a giant, shaggy, ape-like creature with huge feet and enormous, saber-like teeth. It is a mythical monster resembling Bigfoot of the United States, but the Tibetan Yeti is a figure of ancient South Asian legends and folklore supposed to inhabit the upper reaches of the Himalayas, a remote location which true believers in the existence of the legendary creature used to drive the point that Yetis are rare, reclusive, and elusive creatures that are difficult to find in the wild, suggesting that these ape men of the Himalayas really do exist. Such has been the belief for centuries, and stories of people spotting the Yeti or its footprints were common in Bhutan, India, and Nepal. But it's the forensic evidence and fossils discovered in China, India, and Vietnam that provided the most compelling proof of Yeti's existence. And scientists were able to complete the reconstruction of a creature that fits the hefty primate's description. Number 9. Unicorns. Many cultures all around the world tell of mystical fairy tale creatures depicted as white horses with pearly white manes and an elongated long horn extending from their forehead. Unlike many mythical creatures which appear to draw from humanity's deepest fears, unicorns are described as being magnificent and noble creatures, often represented as a symbol of purity and goodness. These untamed creatures of mythology could be seen galloping in the forests where they fed on fruits, berries, and nuts. But the real-life unicorns did not live in the forest, rather on open grasslands, and they were more rhino-like than horse-like. These real-life unicorns, called Siberian unicorns, were so named for their huge horn that grew out of their forehead, much like the mythical creatures found in storybooks. They were an ancient rhino species found to have lived at the same time as modern humans until some 36,000 years ago, meaning that the early men did in fact encounter unicorns in the wild, just not the elegant white ponies we imagined. Number 8. Centaur. Being part man and part horse, the tales of Centaur in ancient Greece have long fascinated mankind. Legend has it that the mythical creature was stuck between two identities, one half as a wild beast and the other half as a nobleman. One notable centaur is often referred to in ancient Greek legends as the wise Chiron, a more cultured centaur, a respected intellectual, and a gifted healer. Chiron lived at the foot of Mount Pelion in Thessaly, northern Greece, and if you're wondering whether other centaurs can be found in the region, the most sensible answer would be a resounding no. You see, centaurs did not exist in their classic sense as being part man, part horse. Rather, they were simply ordinary men riding on horseback at a time when such a thing was inconceivable. It's said that the name centaur was given to the Turks who traveled to Greece on horseback. From a distance, the horsemen looked like their torso was actually part of the horse they were riding on. My understanding is that the Turks still exist. Number 7. Sphinx. With the head of a human and the body of a lion, the Sphinx is one of the most interesting of all mythical creatures. Legend of the Sphinx traces its roots in ancient Egyptian mythology, with the creation of the Great Sphinx of Giza statue as a guardian of the ancient pyramid tomb of Pharaoh Khufu being perhaps the most fascinating and mysterious pieces of human creation. For a long time, the world has believed that the Sphinx of Giza was constructed in the likeness of the fierce ancient Egyptian part woman, part lioness, warrior goddess, prominently known as Bastet. However, new evidence suggests that the creators of the Sphinx may have been inspired by an actual terrestrial, unusual feline. Speculations of whether the Sphinx was a real creature begun in 2019 when the Grand Egyptian Museum announced that they were using revolutionary technology to perform CT scans and DNA tests on the remnant of a strange feline creature found near the Sphinx. Could it have been the very creature the massive limestone sculpture was based on? Number 6. Dragons. Hardly anyone believes in the actual existence of dragons, yet they are perhaps the most talked about mythical creatures for thousands of years. Tales of these large, flying reptiles that breathe fire date back through the ages, at least 4,000 years. But if you ever hope to find something that looks more like a dragon, you might have to venture more into the distant past to an age where giant reptilian beasts dominated the Earth, the age of the dinosaurs. Sure, it's a bit far-fetched to think that dragons were in fact dinosaurs, but if you look at it from the sense that dragons are always reptilian in whatever culture they appear in, then the dots to join them become clearer than ever. But if the kind of dragons you're imagining don't necessarily resemble the ones depicted in classic dragon mythology, an imagination that has become fodder for books and Game of Thrones style movies, then you can find real-life dragons a lot closer to home, Komodo dragons. While they can't breathe fire, these massive reptiles can be menacingly scary and as dangerous as the mythical dragons portrayed in Western culture. Number 5. Vampires. Vampires are perhaps the best-known classic evil monsters fabled to be undead, fanged creatures of the night that subsist by drinking human blood. These terrifying mythological beings were the gist of much lore in southern and eastern Europe in much of the 17th and 18th centuries. That was the time when superstitions led to the prosecution of anyone manifesting unfamiliar physical or emotional illness that may have been linked to the vampire legend, as many characteristics of vampirism were identified as there were vampire legends at the time. Today, modern science has functioned to suppress the vampire superstitions that thrived in the Middle Ages, but that's not to say that the very real fear of vampires has been completely cleared out. Communities of self-identified vamps do exist in the world, and although they are only normal-seeming folk, they do partake in unusual feeding rituals, which include drinking the blood of willing donors. Number 4. Loch Ness Monster. The legendary Loch Ness Monster described in Scottish folklore is often imagined to be a long-necked marine reptile with a vast body. The creature is said to have inhabited Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands, but nobody was really sure of its existence until the account of Arthur Grant, which offered a more convincing sightings claim. His account was therefore instrumental in creating a sort of rough image of what Nessie, as it was nicknamed, looked like. His image of the monster propelled the idea that the creature belonged to the extinct plesiosaur family, a group of aquatic crocodile-like reptiles with long extended necks that lived in the deep dark waters of our lakes and oceans some 76 million years ago. Number 3. Hydra. As the legend goes, Hydra was a multi-headed serpentine creature of Greek mythology known to have lived in the Lake of Lerna and the Argolis. The aquatic snake-like monster was reckoned to have been impossible to kill because if one head was cut off, 2 more heads would emerge from the fresh wounds. Enter the legendary hero Hercules, whose second of his 12 labors was to slay the 9-headed monster snake, Hydra. Hercules somehow figured a way to stop the creature's heads from multiplying, and that was the winning strategy that saw him kill the seemingly immortal beast. The real-life Hydra is significantly less scary than the terrifying creature described in Greek mythology. They're about an inch long and live in fresh water. They're polyps that like to snack on tiny invertebrates like shrimp, so not a gigantic aquatic monster, but a microscopic multi-headed creature of the waters you need not fear. Hail Hydra!
Now it's time for today's best pick.
Remember, the images we feature on our Best Pick segment are pictures sent to us by subscribers just like you. So if you ever come across an image online and you'd like to know more about it, you can always send it over to us. We'll be glad to do the digging for you, and who knows, your image too could be featured in our upcoming episodes. Number 2. Merfolk. The idea of aquatic humanoids swimming in the world's oceans dates back at least 3,000 years. In African mythology, the creature is called Mamiwata, as is the water spirit called La Cerne, described in the Caribbean island folklore. Mermaids are the most common underwater half-fish, half-human creatures depicted as divinely beautiful maidens with long flowing hair and an irresistible sweet voice. Mermen would be the male counterparts of the mythical female mermaids, but details about them are often vague, especially as regards the subject of whether they are hideous creatures of the sea or handsome and desirable beings. No matter, the question of the actual existence of merfolk has been the subject of much debate for thousands of years, or at least since the discovery of the New World by Europeans. Experts often dismiss the accounts of mermaid-spotting explorers as being a case of mistaken identity, reasoning that no verifiable evidence points to the existence of fish people, and as such, sailors claiming to have seen the mermaids. Italian explorer and navigator Christopher Columbus once saw what were probably really only glimpses of human-sized marine mammals called manatees, or sea cows.
Before we move on, I've got a little challenge for you that'll take 5 seconds to complete. So here's the deal. You just leave a like on this video, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, and you will get 25 years of amazing luck. Try it, it really works.
Number 1. The Kraken. This mythical creature from Nordic tall tales is perhaps the biggest sea monster ever imagined by humankind. It was a giant aquatic beast reputed for having a bad temper and wrecking large ships for sport, and dragging any survivors into the depths of the sea with its giant tentacles. Talk of the humongous, island-sized, absolutely terrifying mythical sea monster was whispered amongst most sailors, and some seamen even made bold claims that such a creature exists in real life. Several sightings and discoveries of the giant squid, or its more massive cousin, the colossal squid, which would grow to an astounding 13 meters, are responsible for keeping the legend of the Kraken alive today. Sure, believing in the actual existence of the Kraken is a bit over the top, but if such a sea monster did exist, you'd better hope it makes do just eating fish. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to smash the like icon and leave a comment. Your engagement is what keeps our curiosity going. We have lots of fantastic videos which you will enjoy. You can start by checking out the 2 already showing up on your screen right now. Keep it 100.